I know, but I was trying to get the band.
You know, I think the band was such a, they play such magnificent music, I think we need to give them a round of applause. You know, if we were rich, we'd pay them. But since we're not rich, the best we can do is thank them. Okay? I'm Ted Kirkland, and I'm going to be the man up front. You all know. Thank you, Father. Thank you very much, Father. And we're going to start with our program. We have I think, a very exciting program I'm looking forward to. We have a snake dancer. No, I'm sorry, a belly dancer. And I was telling her not to eat too much because I didn't want to get cheated. You know, and if she eats too much, she may lose the rhythm. So I hope the sister is still in here, and I hope she's not in line getting any more food. Okay, she's getting dressed? Okay, good, because that's nice, because, you know, it's very seldom that I have an opportunity to see a belly dancer, and I want to see every bit of it, you know? Everybody agreed? All right, very good. Very good. Right, okay.
Watch it, Ted, watch it.
Huh? I noticed, Father, you have a front row seat. So, is it on? Okay. Anyway, first I think I will like to introduce some very important people. I consider them very important people, and they're all our friends, and they're our representatives, and they're a bunch of beautiful people who are seated up here at what I guess we'd call the head table. First, I guess we'll start with Mr. Chuck Simmons, who is a representative of the governor of the state of New York. Mr. Simmons is representing Governor Carey. So will you stand up and take a bow, Mr. Simmons? What's that? Bring us some money. Next to Mr. Simmons is a young man out of Georgia that most of us you know, I guess, you know, that sort of creates a problem because up to this point, you know, Brother Arthur Eve was the only one that would walk in this room and get that amount of applause. And it seems like we have a brother from Georgia who's sort of stealing the spotlight. I don't know if it's because of his reputation or because of his looks, but it seems like I heard a lot of women out there. But anyway, it's a pleasure having the Honorable Julian Bond, the representative of the state of Georgia, with us tonight, and I think we should give him a great round of applause. And next to Brother Bond, all of us know this gentleman. He's the mayor of the city of Buffalo. Arthur Eve. And next to him is his charming, beautiful wife who's working very hard in this campaign. She's Mrs. Connie Eve. And for all of you people who've been in Buffalo for any period of time, I think all of you know this gentleman here who always wears a hat, Brother Bill Gator. And next to him is his charming, beautiful wife, Mrs. Gator. And I guess the other gentleman there with the pretty bush, he was supposed to have been our state representative, but for some reason we didn't get him in last time. But I'm pretty sure that that will not happen again. Mr. Frank Messiah. And right here, right next to me here is this gentleman here who had always sports the beautiful silver, pretty hair, Mr. David Fields. And you know, this beautiful place that we're in tonight has a director, and it's always nice to have the director up here with us so that we can actually thank him for allowing us to be here tonight to have such a beautiful affair that is being put on by the black women of the political caucus, Mr. Carl Johnson, the director of St. Augustine Center. Mrs. Claire Williams around? Will you please come forward? Yes. Yes, dear, right now. Mrs. Claire Williams is going to start us off tonight. She's going to sort of put us in the mood. And I think some of you remember Mrs. Williams before.
Right on. Hey. Come on, Mrs. Williams.
Where's your drummer? Drummer! Get the drummers out there. Huh? Are they? Here she comes. Okay, baby. We'll get it for you. Somebody get the band out. Tell the band to come in here.
If they want to eat, let them have a little taste first.
Okay. You want to turn around?
It's all right with me. I ain't going nowhere.
Okay.
I'm going to stay here with Mr. Bond.
Okay, maybe while we're waiting for the band to get them a little something to eat, maybe we'll take this privilege to, maybe we'll take this privilege, though, to ask our representative from Georgia if he'd come up and say a few words to us. How is that?
Thank you a great deal. You know, can everybody hear me? How can you, if you can't hear me, how can you ask if you can hear me? You know, everybody who gets up to speak always says what a great pleasure it is to be here, and this is a great pleasure for me to appear both on behalf of an old and very dear friend, Arthur Eve, but in addition to that, Arthur, to speak before a group of women. There are some men here, but it's a pleasure to speak before a group of women. Maybe it's not turned over, no? Has to be... Oh, it has to be plugged in first. Got to be plugged in first. But while we're waiting for that, let me just say a couple of things. I am honored to be here, and I've had a lot of honors in my life. A little while ago, I was chosen to be on a list put out by Time magazine of 200 leaders in the country, and I asked myself the question, why me? And then later on, Ebony magazine picked me as one of the 100 top black leaders in the country. And I was very flattered, and I said, "Why me?" And then just recently, I'm not saying it for that, just recently Cosmopolitan magazine picked me as one of the 30 sexiest men in the country. And I asked myself the question, who talked? Which one is that? This one? This one. And to be serious, and although I think all of us must laugh sometimes to keep from crying, but we are really here about a very serious purpose. And that is the selection process that goes about choosing political leadership in the city of Buffalo, New York. Now, I am here from about 7 o'clock this evening till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and hope to spend as much of that time as humanly possible promoting the candidacy of Arthur Eve. But around 10 o'clock tomorrow, I will be back home in Atlanta, Georgia, where we have a black mayor. And most of you, all of you, I would guess, will still be here. And it is on your shoulders and backs and in your hands and resting on your legs and in your pocketbooks and your purses and your wallets that the future of Art Eve's candidacy rests. A great many of us like these kinds of affairs, and I like them a great deal. A lot of politicians don't like them, you know, but I like these kinds of affairs a great deal. There's good fellowship, and there's good sistership, and there's food, and there's drink, and there's music, and we're going to be treated to some dynamite singing. But the nuts and bolts of the campaign must go on tomorrow morning in church, tomorrow morning after church, tomorrow evening, on Monday morning, on all of the hours of the day and many, many hours of the night between now and Election Day in September. And that is where you must come in. Traditionally, you know, black people have been right on at the rally and left out at the ballot box. And we have got to find a way to translate the kind of energy and excitement that we put into a lot of things we do into political life too. Now, when I was a young boy in high school, I had a civics teacher who told me that politics was the art of the possible. And I decided that meant that for black people, everything was impossible. It just wasn't any use. Then when I got a little older, I went to college and I had a political science class, which really just civics taught by an older man. And he told me that politics wasn't the art of the possible, it was the art of compromise. And I quickly decided that meant that when you were in politics, you had to compromise so much that if you finally won what you thought you wanted, you really didn't have anything at all. And so that discouraged me from getting involved in politics. But as I got older, and when I became a politician myself, I discovered that it really wasn't the art of the possible. It wasn't the art of compromise. It is a different kind of art. It is the art of seeing who gets how much of what from whom. And we are the who haven't gotten any of anything from you-know-who. That is what politics is in the United States in 1977. It is a hard business. It is sometimes a dirty business, and people in Buffalo probably know that as well as people anywhere in the United States, that it can be a dirty business. It is a tedious business. It can be a boring business. It is an expensive business, but it is an important business. It is the most important business any of us have. And it doesn't matter whether you're a butcher or a baker or a candlestick maker or what you do. Politics controls you from the day you draw your first breath till the day you let out your last. Some politician, name somebody, who writes your name down on a birth certificate and files it someplace downtown when you're born. And when you die, some other politician writes your name on a death certificate and files it away. It is politics that decides whether the street in front of your house is paved or whether it's full of potholes. It's politics that decides what kind of schools your children go to, whether when they graduate from high school they can read and write and add and subtract, or whether they know just as little as they did when they went into first grade. It is politics that decides everything about your life. If you're going down the expressway too fast here, and a policeman stops you the way they did Mr. Krangle, it's politics. It's politics that decides whether the policeman says, "Come here, girl," or "Come here, boy," or whether he says, "Excuse me, madam. I noticed your vehicle was traveling a trifle in excess of the posted speed limit. And I hope you won't do it again." Now, that's what politics is. Now, some people win and some people must lose. But the people who usually win are the people who work. The people who knock on the doors, who stuff the envelopes, who give the money, who hold the parties, who go to the rallies, who get up early on election day, who call on the phone, who do all of the things that have to be done to make sure that you have art in the art of politics. So it's a great, great pleasure for me to be here and a great pleasure for me to see all of you, and I'm not leaving until you sing. Thank you.
I don't guess our singer is quite ready yet. Maybe the band is still eating. This time I'd like to call upon another young man to come up and say a few words to us. He may even have something for us to do in the near future because he is the campaign manager of our next mayor. And this gentleman is no other than Mr. Walter Shields. I think most of you have probably recognized him in the bank when he used to give away some of that money, and I'm still trying to find somebody else to deal with in the bank since he left. So, Brother Shields, will you come up and say a few words?
Mr. Bond and all of the other distinguished people at the platform, it is my pleasure to be able to address you tonight. I take it as a serious, very serious note. I'm very proud to be on a serious note with everybody that's here tonight. It goes back a long time to say that you're very proud to be a member of a family of unity about the business of building a decent future for the city of Buffalo. I have a lot of roots in the city of Buffalo. My family live in Buffalo. I attend school in Buffalo. And I'm not pleased about the situation that we find ourselves in Buffalo. I think it's time for a change, and I know we can fulfill the bill. So I joined the team of being aggressive about change, and I know Mr. Eve is about the business for change for all of us. So I find my job may be very easy, very demanding, but I'm proud to be a part of the team, and thank you so much, Brother Kirkland, for inviting me up to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. At this time, I think we need to hear a little something from our mayor, Brother Arthur O'Ee.
Thank you very much, Ted. I've got a big level. I think I can.
That's your gun, man.
Where? That's George Franklin. I didn't know what I was doing, sir.
That's my brainwaves going through there.
First of all, I'd like to thank Julian for coming and taking out from his very, very busy schedule to spend today with us to help us in our campaign. I know what it is to serve in the state legislature and to be away during the week, and then you want to go home, but then there are things that you feel you must do in order to try to make a contribution to make life better for somebody else, and not necessarily in your own city or your own state, but somewhere else. And I know the sacrifice that he's had to make in coming here. Normally Julian might go and speak at college campuses and they pay him. It's cost him to come here financially. We're not paying him a dime to come here and to be with us and to speak for the Black Women's Caucus this evening. I'd like to also thank the women for having this. This is my fourth speech I spoke at a church banquet tonight for Reverend Ransom, a rally, then another affair, and this is another one. Then we're going, hopefully, 2 more before the night's over. Julian is an indication of the quality of leadership that he possessed to take out and come and work with us. But as everyone has stated, this campaign is not over. But we are doing, I think, at this particular junction, as well as we could expect. We obviously was doing so well that we were leading the mayor by 5%, and that's why he pulled out. Don't think that the mayor pulled out because he was tired, or he wanted to stay home, or that he had other things that he could do better with his time. The mayor pulled out because he could not win. And that was the poll projection by Joe Krangle's own poll. So what have they done? They went to Hank Nowak in Congress, tried to get him to come back. Hank said no. They offered him a Supreme Court justice if he would come back and be mayor for 2 years and then go to the bench. I thought it was a crime that they would offer him a judgeship to come back to be mayor, not because of what he wanted to do or could do for the city, but literally to save it for the party. That was the attitude. Come back, Hank, save City Hall for the good of the party. And that's why this city's in problems. Then they went to Jane Stroziak and talked to her about giving up her county clerk seat. And then Gator had her over at the Vermilion Room, and she got a whole lot of feeling there to realize that if she accepted it, she was going to have the doggone fight on her hand, and there was no guarantee of victory with Joe Krangle leading her. So she dropped off. And then subsequently today, Joe picked his candidate. And it's very interesting. Les Fosio came out on Thursday and said, I'm going to be independent of Joe Krangle at City Hall. He will not run City Hall, but I will use him in Albany and Washington for with my administration. And I hope you read that. That's a game. That's a game. Joe will still be running City Hall. Politics will continue as usual, and this city will further go down and down because the philosophy of Joe Krangle is not people but party. And the people make up the party, but he forgot that. And that's why this city has suffered so badly over these last 10 or 12 years. Because people have done what they thought were the politically party correct thing and not the political people correct thing. Then they come up with a nice gimmick. Les Fosio is a multi-ethnic candidate. His mother was Polish and his father was Italian. And they write this in the paper. They write that he is from 2 ethnic groups. So you're not going to vote for him because he can give leadership to the city. He's going to solve any problem. He's going to change things. Vote for him because he's a multi-ethnic candidate. But folks don't understand. Us black folks, okay? Way back there, when they grabbed our women and pulled them into the room, and many of us come from 7 ethnic groups, okay? 7 ethnic groups, Ain't nobody can be more ethnic than us, okay? Because we come all shapes, color, size, tans, whatever it might be, okay? And they tell me I'm part Irish, Scotch, English, everything, Indian and everything else. But that's the measure of how they attempt to appeal to you to vote for them. Not based on substance of solving problems. And then you saw yesterday they let out all of this entourage of big names. Seymour Knox, Marine Midland, Charlie Debo of Western Savings. They call all of these dudes who evidently have been part of that so-called economic power all of these years. and have allowed this city to be destroyed while they build their own little ivory towers downtown for their banks and watch the rest of the community die. Okay? Now you must understand, they don't want Art Eve elected mayor because they passed an occupancy tax where Charlie Debo paid $12 for the Western Savings Bank building and you paid $12 for your home. Okay? How can you justify that kind of taxation? Even welfare people had to pay $8 if they lived in an apartment. That was not a fair and equitable form of taxation. But again, they try to protect those who have. And while they have built their little towers, they have allowed the rest of the city to die because they say, Joe, you do your thing with City Hall and we do our thing with our buildings. And I'll never forget a very prominent citizen of this city saying one time, 8 years ago, man, we wouldn't want to see Art Eve or one of them dudes elected mayor because they might begin taxing our property at the rate that it ought to be taxed. Okay? And you remember when Canisius College did a study of taxes, property taxes of the city of Buffalo, and they documented that poor people were paying as much for their houses on the east side of Buffalo as they were paying on anywhere of this city. And the houses were not valued the same. That was documented by a group of students at Canisius College. Is that poor people and marginal and working people are paying the same property taxes in homes that are valued 4 and 5 times more. And then you read today in the front page of the paper about the grain mills and how the City Hall administration allowed these people to rip off dollars from those grain mills and leave them on the city's back, where we had to, as taxpayers, pay for them to be torn down. And it was there in the paper. Read it today, which talked about the inept leadership in City Hall, which allowed those grain operators to rip off all of the dollars and not pay one single dollar in property tax, and then subsequently leave those buildings for the taxpayers to tear down. That was in the press. The Charlie Debos and them are part of all of that. They don't want us to win, not because we're black, but because our whole political life has been, we've never been controlled by the special interests. We have truly been the representative of the people, and I'm prepared to take on Charlie Debo and Mr. Knox and Joe Krangle to win this election. The issues of this campaign is survival. Plain, simple, and clear. The future of this city. That's the issue of this campaign. And this is a campaign that no one can afford to sit out. Yes, I thank you for your $10 tonight that you've come and supported the Black Women's Caucus. But our budget is $125,000. Okay? Krangle will raise $500,000 with no problems. Okay? We can't compete with that. But we need that as a bare minimum to get the essential elements for this campaign. And then we need 5,000 volunteers to go door to door and make sure that everyone who is not registered is registered by July 11th. We need 5,000 volunteers to go door to door with those petitions to make sure we get those signatures. And then we need 5,000 people to go door to door and make sure that people come out to vote. And if they're going to leave town or go back to school, to make sure they get the absentee ballot. Because Frank Messiah lost his election and Barbara Sims lost an election just by the absentee ballot. People who were out of town, people who were at home, people who were sick, people who were in hospitals. That if we had gone to them and gotten them to file for an absentee ballot, that alone could have gotten Frank over, Barbara,